Hello, Dr. Donna Kinchlow, session 6 of Excellent Questions. This is the final session that gives us the last about 10 questions that came from new nursing students about grief, loss, and spiritual care. What cultures do you believe we should be most aware of, or what cultures have you seen most in your career? When I crafted my spiritual care doctorate project, I met with our pastoral care team, and I asked them to let me know what were the top 5 faith populations that we actually served, because they had that data and those analytics of the different faith populations or faith traditions. You cannot do a spiritual care project and grab all the different faith traditions if you're not actually delivering care to those people. So it's very important that I focused it down. And I found the top 5 faith populations in my hospital were Christian, Catholics, Muslims, Jews, Jehovah's Witnesses. And I knew there was a higher diversity of faith tradition from our physician groups that actually provided health care to the patients. I worked shoulder to shoulder with physicians who were humanists, Buddhists, Hindus, and atheists, as well as Christian. If you're ever looking, the Pew Research Center is an excellent source to depict the different faith beliefs in America and also in the world, and the trends, which faith population is growing. So when you asked me what culture do I believe you should be most aware of, we really, where I live in the Midwest, Christianity is the largest group that I have seen. And I've also worked in North Carolina in the Bible Belt for many years, and it was the same there. We had a tremendous number of Christians. When you ask about culture, though, you need to define culture. And if you get on my website at walkthehalls.com, you can, for free, get on a spiritual care drop-down menu, and you have the ability to see the surveys that I used and also my spiritual care research article that was published. And it's very good because it shows you all kinds of important information and also references on what we've been talking about. Do you think it's harder to recognize spiritual distress than a nursing diagnosis that you see more regularly, such as acute pain or insufficient airway clearance? When you look at spiritual distress, or the risk for spiritual distress, you see that that does not fit in the same category as what the student has penned. Pain and airway clearance is the physical side. You see, NANDA is very specific. They define spiritual distress as an impaired ability to integrate meaning and purpose in your life. The person can't do that. It is as if the person has lost that relational connection with themselves and their higher power, or people, or art, or literature, or nature, whatever they get that life meaning and purpose from. But once you see a patient with pain and loneliness and anxiety and expressions of guilt and despair and loss, you can think spiritual distress. When you look at acute pain, it is what it is. Acute is sudden, and it usually is not a lasting thing. So we have a pain scale, and it's easily treated. And remember, in this question, it was sudden pain, not chronic pain. We can also evaluate the medication's effectiveness, and the scenario is all about the physical realm, which is sometimes easily identified. Why? Because if a patient's having pain, they're going to tell you. If the patient's having pain, they don't feel funny when you ask them on a pain scale of 0 to 10, 10 being the worst pain you've ever had in your life and 0 being pain-free totally, where is your pain right now? They're able to self-reflect and examine and give you the answers to those questions, and they appreciate it. Then you deliver the medicine, and then you come back and you say, did we make a difference? What was the impact of the medication or the warm therapy or the exercise? And then again, the patient is willing to evaluate all of that. So, insufficient airway clearance is the same. We know how to act fast to correct the problem at hand. If you've got someone choking, we know they're choking. Okay, you know about the Heimlich. We know how to clear the airway. We know how to use suction. We know how to help people, and we can do it quickly, and we can identify what it is. So identification of spiritual distress will be just as natural as the physical issue, whether the patient verbalizes it or not. Again, this is where your observation, your knowledge of their spiritual history or their lack thereof is going to be of help to you. Knowing to listen and discover the story, you will find what the spiritual distress is and know the access you have and what resources are available for those dear ones. Does everyone go through the stages of grief in order? The answer is no. It can kind of be all cattywampus. It isn't a linear situation. And help for the hard times, you can actually find out that you may go down a road, go through this, go through that, and maybe even run backwards and hit a space again and maybe not stay as long. But you can go from denial and anger and bargaining and back to anger. So it's never going to be in the order that we know Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has given us. What do you do whenever a family interferes with the important care when their loved one is dying? Well, excuse me, the only time that I've actually had a family interfere with care is when I was working in the South. I had a huge family, and it was a huge family, and these dear ones were gypsies, and they crowded my room. They slept on the floor. We did not have a limit to visitation like we do now. I had to tap dance around bodies to get to the patient, and I worked night shift, and it was years ago. And again, we didn't have the visiting hours that you have now. But usually if you have a room full of people who are grieving, they will gladly leave upon your request. And you will be requesting that. Why do I say that? You're going to be turning the patient. You're going to be doing mouth care. If they've got suction, you don't want to suction in front of the family. You want to suction when they're outside the room. Sometimes the family is so happy to get up and stretch their legs and change their position. I don't know if you've ever sat on a couch or a recliner for a long period of time in a hospital. Not the most comfortable easy chairs that you could ever sit in for a long time. So you have them get up, you have them walk. They may want to go to the bathroom. They may want to go outside and walk a bit. You will always be giving good mouth care. You'll be bathing and turning and keeping that dear patient clean. And quickly, while the family's out of the room, pick up the room, take out the trash, do whatever else you need to make the environment a little bit more pleasant. Because, you know, sometimes they'll just bring in all of their disposable things that they're eating and drinking out of, and you don't want the garbage. You don't want to make memories of them being with their loved one and their loved one's dying, and you've got a garbage can overflowing. No, that's not a good idea. Sometimes if you're in doing things, and you might want to grab the housekeeper to do it too, so that she can mop the floor while they're out, and you can make it a very pleasant, good smelling area. In all the years I've worked, I've never had anyone interfere with care of someone that is dying. I have never had anybody interfere. They appreciate everything that you're doing. And I've never had anybody refuse to leave the room while we took care of the patient. Okay, this is the exact same question, worded a little different. Do you have any advice on how to take care of the patient when the family's grieving process gets in the way? Just graciously have them step out, and they will. Do you think talking with patients or family members while somebody is dying is a skill you can't really learn until you're in that situation? I think that's an excellent thought, an excellent question. But I want you to know that you're going to learn with every encounter because the patients and the families usually are so appreciative of all your efforts and your kindness, and you'll be like one of them. Remember to listen to stories, and you can even listen to a family story if you've got time. Some of the best things you can do is offer them a life review form. Uh, I would think that palliative care hospice, some nursing units would have a life review form. Well, what is a life review form? It's wonderful. Some patients actually have come to the hospital and it's already filled out and it's laminated and it's beautiful. It tells all about situations and things that the patient did. And you get an opportunity to know that man worked for where, for how long. And when you're doing this and they don't have a life review, but they want one, it may be the first time in a long time that all the kids have been together. And then they begin to share memories and they begin to talk, and it just relieves the atmosphere of the sometimes overwhelming awkwardness. So, a life review form is a sweet thing that you can do. And again, it gets the conversations going, and the patients and the families will include you. You always want to give them a chance to share laughter and tears and write memories, giving meaning to the life of the person that is dying. The other thing is, some people are musicians and they love music, and you may be someone who, I can remember a good friend of mine who we were giving a woman a bath, and she put on some beautiful Christmas music from Pentatonics on her phone while we were doing the care. Uh, you just learn what's important to them and provide what they need. Really isn't difficult. And yes, you're going to get skilled. And you'll learn more and more from your coworkers as well as your patients and your families. What can nurses do for patients who are experiencing one of the dirty D's of life? Well, what do we know about the dirty D's? Divorce, displacement, all those things. Death, disappointment, narcissistic abusive relationships, loss of promise. And whatever is going on in the life of that patient, whether it's divorce or death or displacement of a loved one, maybe they've lost their job, social workers are a wonderful part of the healthcare team. I loved my social workers. They have resources. You know, they're not only grief counseling, there's also divorce counseling, there's people who are alcoholic that may want to get over that, drug addicted. There's so many things that we can help people with. But one thing you need to realize is a lot of your mental health issues and situations require we give the resources to the person who's in the problem, and they have to contact themselves. Very seldom are you able to get the psych gang to come to the hospital. If you can, that's wonderful. If they can make a connection with a patient while the patient's in the hospital and maybe help set up things like outpatient, alcoholic, ambulatory, yeah, that would be a wonderful thing for some people. We always have resources. The communities are wonderful. People want you to have health, regardless of what the problem could be. And we can do the connections. An awful lot of the time we will. And also remember, if people are connected to the VA, we can help with that as well. Make those connections. This is a really interesting question, and it's a real life question. So, if a nurse has a million tasks to accomplish and you're rounding on a patient who is expressing distress and spends 30 minutes talking and venting, how do you respectfully hit that pause button? Well, you always have tasks to do in every room you're in. So when you're in there, you can be listening. And granted, you don't have to stop all the time. It's nice to stop now and then, do your eye contact, let them know you're listening. But if you need to be checking pulses and checking a wound or whatever, she can be, or he can be, venting, venting, venting while you're doing your job. But when it's time for you to go, how do you hit the pause button? Well, again, you communicate it. You can say, I know you're very upset, but I need to go at this moment. And I'm here all shift, and I will return, and we can continue this discussion. And please, while I'm gone, be thinking of some solutions to these issues, and I'll do the same. So you're actually giving them something to do. And when you come back, you're hoping that perhaps they're looking for solutions instead of just complaining or venting. Once I had a patient, worked in the IV team at the time. She was ranting and raving about how long she had to be in the ER. Whew, she was hot. She was livid. I started her IV. I didn't know her at all. Didn't know her well at all. And when she finally took a breath, I said, Mrs. J, I know you're upset, but I want you to realize the emergency department staff may have had a multiple vehicle accident with several victims. And at the same time, in another room, they might have had a man with a massive heart attack. And in another room, they might have had a man with a gunshot wound. And I am so sorry you had to wait 4 hours for a bed. But I am also grateful that you and your family members aren't in the ICU fighting for your life. I can't tell you my surprise when our newsletter came out. This was years ago, and they would print some of the patient satisfaction comments in the newsletter. And here this patient called out my name and wrote, I am so grateful. Donna set me straight. I needed to hear every word she said to me, and I definitely needed an attitude adjustment, and I am so grateful. Who would have thought that? But not everyone realizes when you're in the emergency department, it's a breach of HIPAA to walk in that room and say to you, oh man, we just got a child abuse. Oh man, we can't tell the patients any of those things. So everything I said about what was going on in the emergency department, I made up. I made that all up. But did it help place her in a position where she could think about her frustration, and I could take her and help her think about someone else's possible heartbreak? And it wasn't mean. And granted, you never know how people are going to react when you say such things. But sometimes you just have to set them straight. Now, I will tell you this. If you have a chatty Cathy, sometimes your physician knows they're chatty Cathy, and they kind of grab onto the physician as well. And when that happens, sometimes they'll approach you and go, I'm going in room 12. Would you give me about 10 minutes and then call me? And that's an innocent way of helping someone to get away. But then I always wonder, why are you? Why are you talking so much? Are you nervous? Are you afraid? Is there an underlying problem? if you're asking for more pain medication, if you can't sleep at night, if you have an issue, maybe it's a forgiveness issue with your family member or whatever it is, sometimes there's a reason more than just being a chatty Cathy. Maybe they're lonely. Maybe they don't have any visitors. And in that event, what can you do? If you've got candy stripers or you've got a strong pastoral care team, and she wouldn't mind for the pastoral care team to come and pray for her. Maybe that's what she's needing. Maybe it's something you don't have time to go in and assess it, but we used to have a chaplain, and she would go in and they would share with her exactly what was wrong, and it would make all the difference in the world, because sometimes it is that spiritual distress that they don't even know they're having. So again, you need to set them straight. You need to tell them, I'm sorry, I need to leave. I know you have a lot to talk about. I really appreciate your stories, but next time I'm making rounds, I'll come by. And remember the tip that, you've got this issue, you're venting, it's a problem. Think about a solution, and then let's talk solutions when I come back by and see you. And that puts a whole different icing on the cake. Puts them to work, really. Do you think nurses who specialize in end-of-life care need extra education to be empathetic during hardship like death, or should we just rely on nurses' natural loving ability to comfort a family facing death? Very important to know. Your fingerprints are all different, and you're different, and I'm different. And you're going to find there are nurses who are extremely, well, they call it a mental personality. And that doesn't mean you're crazy or that you have mental illness. But in human dynamics, the people that they say have mental personality are those people that like to do things themselves. They are very isolated in a lot of their emotions. They are not highly emotional people. Not all nurses have the gift of having that wanting, desire, and ability to express comfort. So it isn't a natural ability. Sometimes people learn it a little bit. Sometimes it's just within certain personalities. But as far as extra education, I will tell you, most people that work love extra education. And the hospice palliative care certification provides that. And if people are working in that environment, 9 chances out of 10, they do have a heart, or they feel that their work is a mission, like a ministry. End of life, normally you can get certifications. If you're working in those areas, more than likely you're going to have all kinds of conferences and clinics on ethics and death and dying and how to have a good death. So for these people, a lot of it is a calling in a ministry. But as far as thinking that people that are in that mold, that they all naturally have an ability, it is a natural ability for some. But some nurses are pretty crusty and they're there for the paycheck. And comforting people may not be their forte. And you may not find them in the oncology unit. You may find them in surgery, so they don't have to talk to people. It's an amazing buffet of jobs we have to help find the personality and the job that fits you best. That's very important. Okay, how do you respond when they ask why you're not doing anything for their loved one on a DNR? So we really need to talk about this. People often believe that the do not resuscitate order means do nothing, right? No, it does not mean that. It only says, please don't code me, don't do compressions, don't resuscitate me, don't put me on a ventilator, don't do that. But give me my antibiotics and my pain medicine and whatever other holistic care I need. I just don't want to be coded. So nothing else is left go. It's not like, even if you're on hospice, we're never gonna just let you lay there and ignore you. Now, if you have someone who's dying and you're wanting to go do skincare and you want to turn them and clean them, and the family says, she's resting so peacefully, please leave her be. You can do that. You're not going to be in trouble for leaving her be. But as far as DNR is something that I'll also say it again. I think I've said it before. If you are Do Not Resuscitate and you don't want to be code, you don't want a code called on you, you don't want to have a code blue, no compressions, no breathing. You just want to die and leave me go. Anytime you come into the hospital, you have to renew that. Every time someone comes into the hospital, if they were DNR back in June, and now we've got January approaching, guess what? You want to be a DNR? You're going to have to tell me now. If you have family, you better let them know that that's what you want. You just need to be clear on it. But any other care you're going to get. And I will tell you this. If you're going to surgery and you are a Do Not Resuscitate, or you're going to the cath lab and you are a Do Not Resuscitate, we revoke that. We have you sign a paper that pulls that away, because we don't want you dying in surgery or dying in the cath lab, because our intent in those areas are we're going to do everything we can to save you. So you will revoke that to get your cath done, or to get your surgery done, your gallbladder removed, whatever. And then if you want to be a Do Not Resuscitate when you come back to the floor, then we have to redo it, and we'll make that happen. What is something you do to escape or take your mind off death and dying, since my career is filled with lots of grief? How do you balance your mental health while supporting others as well? First of all, my career has been so full of love and appreciation from my peers and my families and my patients, and death and dying in my 44 years is a very small amount. Very small amount. It's just a part of my legacy. And I want you to be aware. There is no reason why you have to work in any of the intensive care units or any other trauma units. You're going to see more death where? In the emergency room, the ICUs, the trauma units, and that's where early in my career I worked. And on the floor, now and then, there will be a code. Now, during COVID, there were codes and rapid responses, way too much. But as far as escaping or taking my mind off of death and dying, and having that balance of mental health and loving people and supporting them, I'm just one who never minded helping somebody jump into heaven, leave that earth suit behind and move on. I enjoyed people. I took a course on grief counseling. I've taken my certifications in med-surg and my certifications in heart failure. When you are dealing with patients with heart failure, the trajectory is going to be down. I can't tell you exactly from the time you're diagnosed, because it depends on where you are. But I worked on a heart unit, telemetry unit, open heart surgery unit. I worked all over the place. And I can tell you that my mental health has been so much fun. Why and how? Well, my Christian faith, my belief system is very strong. It's my rock. So I stay connected to my church. I go to 2 Bible studies. My husband and I, we get up in the morning. I fix the coffee. He fixes the coffee. We listen to a gentleman from California at 6 in the morning, and we're both retired now. But I've done this all my life. I read my Bible. I volunteer at Christian retreats. We love cooking, baking, meal prep. I love my wild birds. My husband and I both love flowers and gardening. I love to read, love to play guitar. And I'm thankful because you see, my life was a broken life. My parents divorced when I was 12. Oh, I can go on and on and on. But the greatest thing is nursing and God took the life I have and the life God gave me, made me. And being a nurse gave me amazing opportunities to matter to other people, and they mattered to me. And if you are someone who came from a home that was dysfunctional like mine was, and you were pretty much abandoned and not chosen, the greatest thing is in the nursing profession, you're going to have the richest friendships and memories that the world could offer you. Nursing is more life than death. I have helped save lives. You will do the same. Death is a natural process, and in nursing, you're going to find that to be true. And just like loss is going to happen to all of us and in front of all of us, and you just accept that, because you see, death does not scare me. An empty life, that's scarier than thinking that, oh my, I'm going to be gone. I just feel sorry for my husband for all the fabric and yarn and all the stuff he'll have to go through when I'm gone. But other than that, we develop as nursing people, as nurses, we develop a resiliency that is filled with compassionate caring, and we learn to give it to others. And the best part is when you learn to take care of yourself. Your life is valuable. Don't you forget that. Taking care of you is one of the most important things. Don't ever get lost. If you find you're losing yourself, get yourself some help, because the greatest thing is we have a one and only life. And an awful lot of the things that I have studied, a lot of books that I've read, Family Systems Theory, I'm sure that book is long gone, by John Bradshaw. Knowing where you came from, knowing what grieves you, knowing what heals you, doing some self-care, watching your self-talk. What do you tell yourself about yourself? And do you realize that, yeah, you are going to have some mean people come across your path? And I think that one of the things that is most helpful is being able to say, you're not going to get the response that you really want out of me. I'm going to give you an example of that. I had an old man. I'd already put in 8 hours, and I got floated. And oh man, my group was horrible. I did an assessment on the one lady, and here she's got these oozing, nasty wounds on her back, and it's kind of in a line. And I'm thinking, oh man, that looks like shingles to me. And she was in a room with a patient that was in dialysis. And so this other woman was in dialysis. I'd never met her. So I grab up the charge nurse, and sure enough, this patient that I did my first assessment on has got shingles. We've got to put her in an isolation room. So we're having to do all kinds of transitions for that. I go into another room. This old Todger's got amputated leg, and he's meaner than a hornet. And he is cussing me and cussing me and cussing me. I gotta tell you, you get somebody that could give you grief, really, a different kind of grief. I just looked at him and I said, Tom, I am really amazed at you. You just met me, because he kept calling me a witch, only changed the W with a B. How do you know me so well? I can't believe you know me so well, because he just kept calling me, And I told him, I don't care what you say. I don't care what comes out of your mouth. I'm your nurse for the next 4 hours, and I'm taking good care of you. So I am going to take your vital signs, and I am going to do an assessment on you, and I am here to take care of you. You're going to have to get over it. And when you don't respond, like everybody else, the greatest thing is they stop the behavior because they can't elicit that grievous response. And who wins? You do. You do. Because you know you really meant what you said. I don't care what you think of me. I don't care what comes out of your mouth. I'm here to take care of you. You know, you got one of the best nurses in the house, so get over it. And what could he say? He couldn't get the same response from me. And he was grieving a lot of people, let me tell you. So, yeah, my mental health is probably a little bit of Pollyanna. If I can find the good in somebody, I'm looking for it. And I'm going to help you with it. If I can find a broken person and you're leaking, I'm going to hope that we can pour some love into you so you leak love. That's the kind of thing that I'm hoping for. I'm hoping if you know me that I've done something to help you have a better quality of life, because that's why I was a nurse and will always be a nurse. I keep my license up. Okay, let's see what we got next here. Guess what? This is the 6th lesson. Wow. It has been a joy to go through all your questions. We went over some culture things, some grief, spiritual distress, time management, the dirty D's and DNR, and end of life education. And I want you to know, guys, I'm always here for you. I thank you for this opportunity. It's been really, really good. I'm going to put this out there, and I'm going to let other nursing schools know what you all have in your hearts, so that people might be able to learn and glean some wisdom from you. I also want to let you know that sometimes your generation gets a really bad rap, and I believe in you. I think you are proactive. I think you are critical thinkers. I think that if you put your mind to something, you're going to get there. I think you're going to find what you need and go forward. Know that your instructors in your university, they are going to help you. They want you to succeed. And I'm one of them. I want you to succeed. So if you need me in any way, please know I'm here for you. God bless you. Until next time, thanks a lot for your patience, for your questions, and good luck with your career. It's the best career in the world.